Another viral moment involving Israel is becoming the norm, with the news hitting the internet that the Trump administration was threatening to withhold at least $1.9 billion in aid from states and local governments that support boycotts of Israel or even Israeli companies.
What?
This was met with understandable public outrage, with major figure Alex Jones comparing it to Joe Biden's handling of North Carolina.
This morning, the White House put out a press release, DHS put out the new rules from the Trump administration that any state, county, city that says they're going to boycott Israel will not get FEMA disaster funds or any other federal funds for hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, wildfires, terror attacks. And that's what Biden did in North Carolina, South Carolina, and other areas that came out in documents where if you had a Trump sign or you were white, you wouldn't get support. People didn't believe it at first. When we heard whistleblowers, we got the documents. Total discrimination. Now, it's one thing if Trump wants to tell California, which we support, hey, don't do transgender brainwashing or DEI or we'll cut education funds, because they're discriminating against people. So we're saying you don't get funds to do that. But to then come out and say you're not going to get any funds that taxpayers have paid for, and then imagine when there's disasters and people die, what a crime. So, I'm not trying to have a beef with Israel here, but man, I can't help it. I mean, you want to come in and take disaster relief for conservatives, liberals, agnostic, political people. If there's a flood or a fire, take the money away from people trying to go to the Red Cross or trying to go to a shelter or get some money for a hotel because somebody in a city or state or the county boycotted you. You guys know about the Streisand effect, right? I mean, you couldn't be destroying yourselves faster.
In the channel's personal favorite, Nick Fuentes, with some sarcastic advice to be sure you pledge allegiance to Israel before a natural disaster occurs.
And the new rule at FEMA says this: a city or state cannot access disaster relief money unless it swears allegiance to Israel. I'm not making that up. It says that if a city or state, if a municipality or state government has engaged in the boycott, divest, or sanction movement, meaning that they don't do business with Israel because of Israel's actions in Gaza, for one reason or another, then FEMA will not give them money. We're Americans. We're born in America. We live in America. America's our home. For most of us, it's the only home that we've ever known, will ever known. For many of us, it's the home of our fathers, our grandfathers, our great-grandfathers. For many, it is the home of their great-great-great-grandfathers. It's the home their fathers built. They settled the continent, tamed the wilderness, fought the Indians, built the railroads, built the cities, built the skyscrapers. Allegedly, we have a government constituted of, by, and for the people. That's why we have it. That's the whole premise of this country. And now we're being told that if that government of, by, and for the American people is in any way hostile to a foreign government thousands of miles away on another continent, then that government will not help you. It is refusing to help you in your time of the most dire need. When your house has burned to the ground and you have lost all your possessions, all your family photos, your money, your wealth, your pets, loved ones, your whole neighborhood was flattened like it was in LA, like it was in the Palisades, when your entire town was washed away by a hurricane like it was in North Carolina or Florida. I suppose that was a wildfire too. But in other places, when your town is flooded and destroyed by a hurricane, this is when you call upon your federal government to help you. And the Trump administration says, before you get any help at all, before we extend a helping hand, your government, taxpayer, your government, American citizen, Would you sign on the dotted line and make sure that you're not an enemy of Israel?
However, at first glance, it appeared that Trump had heard the public backlash to the policy and had reversed course with the news that the DHS had in fact updated its memo to remove the Israel section. But this wasn't necessarily the case, as Homeland Security was criticized for attempting to mislead people into believing that no such condition existed in the first place. The community note on X highlights how the government was caught lying, or more specifically, stealth editing the original document. And now for the worst part, the initial intent is still fully in effect. Dominic Michael Trippi reporting new DHS flagged for misleading post as the restriction of disaster relief for states and cities who boycott Israel still stands. The reworded document includes discriminatory prohibited boycotts, which means the ban still applies. Corroborated by Sagar Enjeti, host of Breaking Points, who was the first major pundit to realize the issue. With TLDR, they still might do it, they're just not saying it out loud right now. Meaning in response to the outcry, they obfuscated the language in the policy to make it harder to understand for the average person, while retaining its original effect. Absolutely sickening, and is exactly the reason why the United States of Israel was trending last night. But to nobody's surprise, there are those who are actually fully in support of such policies. Prominent Zionist pastor Greg Locke shouting his support in response to Chris Burnett, demanding why such nonsense be allowed. In someone who I consider to be the most insufferable person in politics, which seems to be backed up by an anecdotal Twitter poll of mine, Misfit Patriot, who starts his rant by saying that the story is probably rage bait, then ends the clip by saying it's all real, he supports it, and it's a good thing.
Guys, if a story looks like it's rage bait and all of the usual suspect Jew-hating retards are reposting it, foaming at the mouth, talking about how Israel controls America, probably is. Okay, so this just in: Trump to withhold disaster funding for states and cities who boycott Israel. Reuters. They have a wonderful track record of being right about everything. So while I am fully on board with people saying shit like APAC sucks, because all packs suck, or anti-Semitism speech laws are gay and retarded because they're unconstitutional. It's not illegal to be a Jew-hating cunt in America. This, however, is fully legal, fully constitutional, and I'm looking at it like this. If I'm okay with them saying, if you promote DEI, I might not give you disaster relief. Also, if you are hosting pro-terrorist demonstrations in your city, you also might not get billions of dollars in funding. I view those two things as equal and the same, and I'm going yay for both of them.
He's special.
In conclusion, I think the jig is up, and Trump's entire camp is well aware that the public has caught on to where his true loyalties lie, which was largely driven by the Epstein debacle, among a few other things. This is another grain of sand in that same heap. But I wanted to use this moment to highlight a phenomenal assertion of the situation we are in by Asha Logos on X. I've heard this theory echoed more and more lately, and I'm inclined to agree. It feels as if Trump and his true inner circle definitely know that the jig is up, and that a massive percentage of his base are officially recognizing that he seems to be working for hidden actors. Think Epstein and Lutnick, Kushner and Netanyahu, Adelson, etc. And that they're now pushing the pedal to the floor to get as much as done as possible before he completely blows whatever remaining trust and faith his base had in him. It feels like an open escalation on all fronts, shameless, brazen, hurried. The push to prosecute his enemies, though they're wildly corrupt crooks and fully deserve it, seems a desperate attempt to drag us all back to a purely political framework to pull people back to the Republican reservation and an us versus them mentality, to forget about Epstein, etc. Yet most seem to be seeing through it this time. And I could not agree more with that articulation, and that is where I will leave it. Let me know your thoughts, anything that I missed, and as always, I will see you guys in the comments. Peace.
Smash that like button.